Let's head to the US to consider this extraordinary conundrum. If only women voted, Hillary would win. OK, that's no surprise. She's well ahead in the polls anyway. But look at this. If only men voted, Trump would win a landslide. Every swing state would turn red. I'm going to pause now for you all to register your shock. In fact, some are arguing that the stories of groping and locker room talk are a sideshow to the main event, which is there's still a gender gap in politics. Men, in the privacy of the polling booth, will vote for Trump, a man. The return to the overt sexism of the past is hiding subconscious sexism and continuing gender bias against women in the present. I'm not saying all men are sexist, apart from you maybe, Nick, but maybe when it comes to having a woman as commander-in-chief, they're not as feminist as they think they are.
Just help me understand what you're saying. Are you saying that men will vote for Trump because subconsciously they don't like women? Or are you saying that men will vote for Trump because subconsciously they think the locker room talk is awesome?
No. What I'm saying is, according to a poll of polls, if only men voted, this is that Trump would win by a huge majority. So what this is actually telling us is that Trump is managing to appeal to something in men they're maybe not even aware of, which is that they want a white man in charge. They don't want to see a woman running the country as commander-in-chief. And this is the evidence. I mean, it's a complete gender split in the country. Men will vote for Trump. Women will vote for Hillary.
But maybe that's
come on,
just
Nick.
because...
I want some comeback from Nick on this because you.
She'll go first.
But maybe isn't that just because those people just agree with what he's saying and his policies, or they don't like Hillary Clinton?
I think she's saying it's because it's sexism.
It's this whole story that we've heard for many, many decades now, which is that men, in theory, are happy to have a woman on the board, but just not this woman. So when it comes to Hillary and who's going to be commander-in-chief, they're in principle happy, but in practice, when it comes to putting their vote in the box, they'll still vote for a man. And I'm talking about men. The evidence from women is they want a woman.
Well,
so this tells us that there is a bias against women in being in charge, in business, in politics.
If that was the case...
How can you counter that poll of polls?
Well, I was just going to run some names past you. Janet Yellen.
I know we have women,
Angela
but these
Merkel,
are the exceptions that maybe
Theresa May.
Cruz.
I agree she's not been elected, but she's got
Nicola Sturgeon. Of course, there are women who've made it to the top despite this, Nick.
I think you're basing your whole argument on a few blokes in the central states, who actually...
Did you see the graph?
Yeah, but if you look on the two sides, the east and west coast, you will see that was still playing pretty blue. There will be blokes in the deep south who think it's quite funny to talk in that way. But for you to decide, therefore, that all men, perhaps James and I, are fashioned like that, and we like locker room talk and would talk about women or girlfriends like that, is utter actually offensive cobblers.
I didn't say
that
you
wrong.
were perpetrating locker room talk behind women's backs. What I'm saying is, according to this poll of polls conducted by Nate Silver, who is the pollster in the US, if you did it by men and women... No, they didn't. There were 20 polls he looked at.
If you look at the success of Margaret Thatcher at that time, the number of people I spoke to, including myself, we were in awe of her because she was a woman and she was fantastic.
Good.
You know, I happen to be in recruitment. I deal with lots of organisations all the time. If I send a good woman who is talented and does the job, she is equally capable of getting that job. I don't believe that there's this sexist perception in men's head that just because she's a woman, we're not going to vote for her, we're not going to hire her. I think it's a bit backward
I don't know how you
thinking.
can contest that. I completely agree with you. Look at the language in the campaign in America. I mean, Hillary, despite having been able to soldier on with pneumonia, instead of being described as incredibly strong and persistent, was described as weak because she had pneumonia. I mean, it was remarkable. All this talk of her being shrill and annoying, it's got really clearly sexist undertones. But I actually think, and I think what's interesting about this, I think there's actually a crisis of Western masculinity that's going on here. And if you look at some of the the right and the far-right movements in America, like the alt-right movement and the people who are coming up supporting Trump, they talk about America needing to be great again, about embracing masculinity, you know, all this dismissing of Trump's talk about groping women. They say it's just locker room banter. I think that there's something deeper happening for American men, that they feel emasculated, they're not secure in their masculine identity, and it's something that's really difficult to talk about. And, you know, they feel displaced by feminism, they're worried about women being their equals, taking over even. And instead of that manifesting in a reasonable, rational way, which of course these feelings never do. It's manifesting in this kind of, we want the silverback gorilla, to use Nigel Farage's language. They want this hyper-masculine, offensively masculine in his views about women and women's voice. In fact, we've got a clip of Michelle Obama really reminding us what is at stake here. I think we can play it.
And I have to tell you that I listen to all of this, and I feel it so personally. And I'm sure that many of you do too, particularly the women. The shameful comments about our bodies, the disrespect of our ambitions and intellect, the belief that you can do anything you want to a woman. It is cruel. It's frightening. And the truth is, it hurts. It hurts.
I mean, this is what is at stake here. We're talking about Americans potentially electing a president who thinks it is okay to violate a woman. It doesn't get more serious than that.
Well, the prize for the biggest pile of ocean-going, copper-bottomed cobblers I've heard all week definitely goes to you.
And you're an angry white male, aren't you, Nick?
What is this?
I rest my case.
Yeah, here we get angry white male response.
Let me say, so
here is the crisis in masculinity.
All the men who are voting Democrat, what are they then? Are they traitors to their sexuality?
Mitchell has very clearly portrayed evidence that if men were to vote without women, Trump would win the election by a majority.
But where do we get to this crisis? What is it, crisis of masculinity?
Yes. I actually said crisis of Western masculinity, because it's all linked up with immigration and rapist Mexicans.
Just walk me through it. What's happening in Germany then?
What do you mean what's happening in Germany? In terms of the right, in terms of there being a massive resurgence in the far right and
we are within
the right.
touch. Let's be honest, after his disastrous performance in the debate this week, Trump is over. We can all accept that. So within touching distance...
I wouldn't be that complacent.
Can we park Germany for a second and Angela Merkel?
Why?
I want to,
They're the most influential
it's a good example. America is seeing an unprecedented resurgence in the right.
I don't want you talking about Angela Merkel and Margaret Thatcher when I want to talk about my topic, which is how Trump is appealing to the angry white male, the people who think that the Dixie flag should fly and there shouldn't be a chick in the White House. Michelle?
I just don't think it's as clear. Of course, that I think you either agree with somebody's policies and they resonate with you, or you don't, whether it's a man or a woman. And I don't know if I'm, missing something. I understand what you're saying. I understand the graph. I understand what you're showing. But to me, what you're saying is all guys would vote for Trump because
he's a man.
Yeah, because he's a man and they're sexist. Well, maybe they just agree with what he's saying. I don't understand.
It is quite curious, though, that if all men were given the vote, only men voted, they would elect Trump, when this high-risk strategy is actually eliminating himself from the...
Of course, it's not making it up.
Is the opposite true?
You believe
the opposite
all the polls, do you?
Because
if only women
Clearly.
voted, Hillary would win by a landslide as well.
So then are you suggesting that women are somehow sexist or prejudiced towards women? I don't really...
No, because in this election, when there's a choice of Trump and Clinton, if only women voted, they... I can't keep on explaining
what you're saying. I think that when you look at policies, people would vote for Hillary, but because men who would have voted for Hillary, because she has more sensible policies and she's a more sensible statesperson, because they are biased by their prejudice against her because she's a woman, it's pushing them towards Trump. That's the only way I'm explaining it.
I think the facts will speak for themselves, because I think Hillary's going to win anyway. So I think your argument is purely academic.
But women vote for Hillary because lots of the stuff that Trump said is offensive to them.
Okay,
not because
Trump ran an incredibly sexist campaign that has backfired. Paddy Power is already paying out on a Clinton victory